What were you taught about it? People with a lot of money must have done something crooked to get it. Aha. Money, yes, that is true. That is very true. We were taught that growing up as well, that the only way that people get a lot of money is they did something they shouldn't have. Definitely not going to last very long. So money now allows there to be a future-oriented transaction. Okay, so it's storing the value. It provides. But the real question that I have for you is, how do you get that money? How does that money come to you? Hey, let's get a little bit interactive here. Let's do something. I want to ask you a question. What was some of those things that you were taught about money as you were growing up? Type it in the chat. What were you taught about money? What were some of those things that you were growing up that you can remember your parents saying, or you can remember a grandparent saying, or you can remember being taught in school or things like this? What are some of those things that you grew up hearing about or learning about money, right? So Lloyd put that's a very good one. I heard this one as well. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money doesn't grow on trees, meaning it's not in abundance. It's scarce, right? You have to take care of it. Don't spend too much of it. Florence says, if you work hard, you'll get plenty of money. I was taught that one too. The harder you work, the more money you make. Yeah, I was definitely taught that. That's an interesting one. Zachary said, money doesn't grow on trees. Yeah. Give them to me. Send them out. Whatever you were taught as you were growing up about money, right? What were you taught about money? Let's see. What were you taught about that paper, that coin, that cheese, that bread? What were you taught about it? What were you taught about it? People with a lot of money must have done something crooked to get it. Aha. Money, yes, that is true. That is very true. We were taught that growing up as well, that the only way that people get a lot of money is they did something they shouldn't have. They're probably crooked or evil or fraud or fraudulent or, doing something that they shouldn't do. Zachary put money as a source of evil, and in brackets, he put misunderstood. Zachary, I'm going to talk about this one today. Money doesn't grow on trees. And if it does, the tree would not be in everyone's house and would come with seasons. Yeah. Here's another one from Paul. Go to school and get a good education and you'll make money. Yeah, definitely I was taught that one too. So you see, we have all of these different ideas that were given to us when we were a child, when we were younger, about money, right? And many people carry these things into their adult life as we go on. Now, in the beginning, and I'm referring to the real beginning. I'm talking before social media. I'm talking before the internet, before the cell phone, all right? Before this thing that we call the cell phone. Before civilization. Right, I'm talking before we began as a civilization. I'm talking the very first group of people. There was no such thing as technology. There was no such thing as medicine. And there was no such thing as money. Yep, there was no such thing as money. There was just physical goods and services. So what did they do, Jermaine? If there was no money, what did they do? Write this down. They bartered. All right. They barter. What is bartering? If you go to Investopedia, it says trading goods or services between two or more parties without the use of money. Okay. So this is how people got their goods and services. They would trade, right? They would basically trade one item for another item. Make sense? So let's say that, Paul, he had wheat and I grew cows. and he wanted some meat, he would trade me some of his wheat for some of my beef. Make sense? And that's how it was done. Someone down the street, they grew pumpkins. Someone else grew rice. Someone else had, sheep. Someone else, did all different kinds of services. So they would trade their goods and services. They would barter, because without money. Bartering is without money. Keep that in mind, right? Bartering is without money. But essentially, they would trade their goods and services for goods and services. A couple weeks ago, I did training. If you were on our Money Monday a couple weeks ago, I did a training on the origins of money. There will be a little bit of overlap, but not much. Here's a video. Here's a video that's going to explain bartering and trading. Okay.
Bartering involves the exchange of goods and services between parties without the use of money. It's the oldest form of commerce, dating back to a time before hard currency existed. Individuals and companies barter with each other based on comparable estimates of prices and goods. To break it down further, bartering is based on a simple concept. Two or more parties negotiate the fair value of their goods and services and offer them to each other in an equal exchange. Almost anything, goods or services, can be bartered if all sides agree to the terms on the table. Bartering can be useful when individuals, companies, or even countries lack hard currency to gain goods and services they may need. Here's an example of a barter. A carpenter builds a fence for a farmer. Instead of the farmer paying for the fence labor and materials in cash, the farmer instead gives the carpenter crops equal to the determined value of the fence. There are some easy-to-follow steps when learning how to barter. Identify your needs.
All right, we'll just stop it there. Now, as you can imagine, as people are bartering, there's all kinds of issues when it comes to bartering, right? So, bartering required time. People had to hammer out the deal. How will Paul know how much wheat to give me for, let's say, one cow, right? So it took time to figure out how much is worth for the two items, okay? And it took time to make sure that they figured out those terms, those conditions, in order for the exchange to occur. And here's the other part. Each participant must want what the other person has. What if I don't want wheat? Or what if I don't want that type of wheat that Paul has? Or what if he doesn't want the type of cow or beef that I have, right? So as you can imagine, there was all kinds of issues when it came with bartering. There needs to be a double coincidence of wants. So basically, both parties needs to want what the other party has, right? So there has to be that double coincidence. There's no common measure of value, or there's no standards or unit of account. So, when it comes to monetary, right, money plays a role to keep that measure of value, that standard, if you will, that can't exist in a bartering economy. Number three, indivisibility of certain goods. So let's say that there's 1.5 cow. Let's say Paul wants 1.5 cow for 50 bushels of wheat. How do you pay with the half a cow? Do we cut the cow? We cut the cow in half and I give him half of the cow? It's unpleasant, right? Especially for the cow. Oh boy, what a visual. So when you're dividing the goods, it's not essential. It's not ideal, I should say, right? And then number four, there's a lack of standards for deferred payments, meaning how do you defer the payment? How do I tell Paul, hey, listen, I'll give you the cow, half a cow another day, or so forth, right? It's very difficult to defer the payment. And number five is there's difficulty in storing the wealth. So let's say that, what do I store my wealth in? Do I store it in the cows that I am breeding? Do I just keep as many cows as I can? Do I keep some cows? Do I keep some wheat? Do I keep some corn? Do I keep some pumpkins? How do I store the wealth, right? So all of these challenges were there with bartering. Now, that means there needed to be a universal medium. Write this word down, medium of exchange, medium of exchange. There needed to be a universal medium of exchange that basically separates the transaction, okay? So they tried many things. They said, let's try cowrie shells. You know those little beads, right? You can see there on my screen. They said, let's try the cowrie shells, all right? Let's try whale teeth. They tried whale teeth, okay? They tried limestone discs. Believe it or not, a country tried to use these big limestone discs that are like heavy like concrete, and they literally had a bank of these things. People tried leather. People tried to use leather. People tried to use coins, and each one brought their own challenges, as you can use your imagination. So it was settled on that there needed to be a universal exchange, medium of exchange, and it was decided that money would be that universal medium of exchange, okay? Now, when we look at money, actually the first paper money, when we're talking about paper money now, first paper money was invented in China, somewhere between the 600s and 900s. And they used this currency, they used it forever and ever and ever until it found its way actually into other countries. And the Chinese, the reason is they found that the weight of the coin was too cumbersome. Keeping coins was way too cumbersome. So they figured that if they printed the paper money, it's going to be much more efficient. And it made sense, you know, and they were, because the Chinese, they were the inventors of paper. So it just made sense for them, right, to use paper for their money. And it was good because then when merchants were leaving instead of leaving heavy coins behind, they would be able to leave light paper, right? And that's how it started. Then that's how the need for the banking and all of those things developed, right? A little bit of history. And then as we come to the modern era, we look, there's two types of money systems, if you will. There's the physical system where you have gold, physical gold, right? Physical paper, physical coin, personal checks. These are all examples of physical money, things that you can see. Then there is electronic money, things that you can't see. You know, when you use your debit card or your credit card, you interact, you're using the electronic banking or Bitcoin or, you know, any type of cryptocurrency. They're in a real mess right now. Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, all of those things are all considered to be electronic banking. Now, money, one of the things when it comes to money, actual money now, the usefulness is its ability, not only as a medium of exchange for transaction, but it's also the store value is future oriented. It means that, let's say that I was producing milk, right? I had from my cows, I would milk the cows and I would sell the milk, right? I cannot store the value of the money in the cow milk. Make sense? Like, I can't milk all the cows and just keep the value there, because the milk has an expiry date. At some point, it's going to go bad, especially in those days when there was no refrigerator. So it's definitely not going to last very long. So money now allows there to be a future-oriented transaction. Okay, so it's storing the value. It provides a means to store the monetary value. And it doesn't lose the value, it doesn't deteriorate. The milk gets stale, it gets old, right? The cow can get sick, the cow can die, all kinds of things can happen. Paul's wheat can go bad, right? So when people exchange items for money, the money retains the value, and that money can later be used for other transactions. So it retains the purchasing power into the future, right? Milk doesn't keep the purchasing power into the future. Gold keeps the purchasing power into the future, but not things that you typically barter with. Now, here's where I'm going with this. You use your money to do all different kinds of things. You use your money to pay your bills, all right? You use your money to take care of your responsibilities, your family, your kids. You use your money to pay your taxes. Well, you might not like doing that, but it's kind of done for you, right? You use your money for leisure. But the question, the real question that I have for you is, how do you get that money? How does that money come to you?